Instead, Thomas Jefferson went through the Bible, cut out all the parts he didn't like, and left the rest. I would hope he cut this part out. Every time this comes up in an election, I go, because I don't know about you, but this doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me sometimes. We'll see what happens. A friend stepped into the office of a Christian businessman one day and noticed a fellow was standing at his desk counting a big chunk of money. As he laid the notes down one by one, the friend said, "Mr. H, just count out 10 pounds from that pile of notes and make yourself or some other person a like member of the Christian Giving Society." The businessman finished his count and quickly replied, "I'm handling trust funds now." His answer instantly flashed a light on the entire work and life of a Christian. And the friend replied to his statement with a question, "Do you ever handle anything that isn't trust funds?" Christians realize that everything we have, everything that God has given to us, is only given in trust. We hold it in trust for God. Friday afternoon, Faye and I were in Cottage Grove having a meeting with our financial advisor, our stockbroker. He had some papers we had to sign because there's been some changes in the laws regarding how he handles Faye's IRA funds. And so we talked about where the money was invested and whether we needed to make any changes, was there better places to invest it, that sort of thing. I trust Aaron, my broker. I trust him to act in my best interest. I trust him to handle my money carefully and honestly. He holds our money, he advises us, invests it after consulting with us, where the two of us feel it's in our best interest. And if he were to betray that trust, the first thing I do is walk out the door and take my money with me. And also, he could lose his license to practice. But our relationship is built on trust. And in today's weird and confusing story from Luke, the one I almost wish wasn't there, that's exactly what's happened. The steward, the manager, the trustee of this guy's funds has been squandering his master's money, hasn't been investing it properly, hasn't been investing it in his master's best interest. Now, a steward is a person who administers property which is not his own. His relation to property is distinguished, on the one hand, from those who have nothing to do with the property, because the steward has everything to do with it. And it's different from the owner, on the other hand, who actually owns it and in whose interest the steward is supposed to be acting. The steward is in no sense the owner of the money, but only the administrator, and his duty is dependent upon the will of another, his master, who can terminate that relationship at any time. The office of steward is built over and above everything else, a trust. It represents in human affairs a venture in which the owner of the property makes upon the strength of his estimate of the character of the man to whom he entrusts his money. When I first met Aaron, my stockbroker, we had a long talk and I got to know him a little bit so that I could determine whether or not I could trust him before I gave him any money. Entrusted to care for his master's business, the steward in this case didn't do it. He took care of his own business. And now he's about to be fired. And he says, what am I going to do? I'm too weak and puny to make my living digging ditches. And I'm certainly too proud to go out and beg. So he decides the best bet is to ingratiate himself with people in the community so that when he doesn't have any place to go, they might possibly welcome him. And so he uses mammon. It's called unrighteous mammon. Now the Jews were forbidden to lend each other money at interest. And if they did, the interest that they lent, even if they could lend it to a Gentile, but the interest payment itself was what they called unrighteous mammon. It was money they earned unrighteously by lending out money at interest. So they didn't lend money to each other. Instead, they lent commodities. They might lend oil, olive oil, wine, corn, wheat, barley, any kind of a commodity. Now, the liquid commodities like wine and oil, they can be diluted. Yeah, I borrow 50 jugs of wine from you, and when it comes time to pay them back, I can pour a little bit of water in there and give them back to you, you know? So the interest rate was higher, it was 100%. Whereas on corn, and peas, grains and such, it was about 80%. So he goes to the first guy, first debtor, and says, "What do you owe my master?" And he says, "I owe 100 containers of oil." And he says, "Write down and make it 50. In other words, cancel the interest. Cancel the interest on it." And he does the same thing to the fellow who owed a bunch of corn. He says, "Knock it down by 20%. You don't owe 100, but make your bill 80. And what he's thinking is, he may not buy their favor, but at least he might be able to buy their favorable attitude towards him. He used money to prepare for his future. And that's what his master is commending is not his methods, but the fact that he provided for his future. His shrewdness, using his brain. And Jesus went on to say, "So I tell you to make friends for yourself with worldly wealth, so that when it gives out, you'll be welcomed in the eternal home." Now let's face it, money, the coins and the paper in our pocket, in and of itself, has absolutely no value whatsoever. It's just a piece of paper, has some writing on it. It's a little piece of metal, has some stuff stamped on it. The value is in what it represents. Be it the food on our table, the clothes on our back, the cars we drive, the house we live in. And what it represents is eventually going to fail. We all know that. We've all lived through the past 10 or 15 years. Home values a few years ago did what everybody said was impossible. I remember being told, when I was young, working in a title company, buy land. Land will always go up. There's a limited quantity of it. It will never go down. Anybody want to talk about 2006, 7? Land prices did be impossible. They plummeted. And stocks and bonds followed suit. There were a lot of folks in my generation who had to postpone their retirement until the market started coming back up, because people lost 20 or 30 or 40% of their retirement income or savings. As a Christian, somebody has said that to us, money is nothing more than a foreign currency to someone whose home's in heaven. Now, when I went to Zaire, there was no place, that's the Democratic Republic of the Congo, when I went in 97?
95.
95, thank you, dear. There was no place outside of Zaire you could exchange your American money for Zairean money. As a matter of fact, we were told that if we tried to take any of the Zairean money home with us and got caught, they'd throw us in jail. So we took our American money with us, and when we needed Zaires, we went to the bank. Now, the bank in Uvira, Zaire, is not a building. What you do is you drive down the street, and you see a guy carrying a briefcase. I say, "Come here." And he comes over to the car and he says, "What do you give us for American dollars?" And you start negotiating. Pretty soon you got about 5 or 6 of these guys around, all offering you more money. And I mean, we're talking like 12, 13, 14,000 zaires to an American dollar. It really wasn't all that valuable. Then we hand them our money, or $1 bills, and they would inspect it and look it over very carefully. If it had a little tear on the side of it, or a nick, or if it had too many creases in it, it's been used for a while, they wouldn't take it. They thought it was counterfeit. We found ourselves, before going to the bank, ironing our money. I know it sounds strange, but that's the way it was. Our earthly riches need to be exchanged for heavenly riches. Much that same way. The Jewish writers tell of a Jewish rabbi who was a bit on the avaricious side, so we say, and he wanted to invest his money where he could get the absolute highest return. And so he found a friend of his who said, I can take care of that for you. I can be your broker. I'll do that. And so he gave his friend the money, and his friend went out and invested it. And a while later, the rabbi wanted to know where his money was invested. So he says, John, tell me where my money's invested. I'm going to get this great return you promised. His friend said, I made the best investment I could possibly make with your money. I gave it to the poor. We're stewards of everything that God has given us. Life, time, gifts, talents, goods, money, all of it. We're stewards of it. And at some point, we're going to be held accountable. Somebody, God, is going to say, what did you do with all that stuff I gave you? What did you do with all the money you had? What did you do with your time? What did you do with your gifts? What did you do with your intelligence? There's an old story about the 3 guys that died and went to heaven. And God says, St. Peter says to him, he says, the first one, he says, what was your IQ? The guy says, 196. St. Peter says, wow, that's pretty good. What did you do with it? He said, well, he says, I went to school, and I went to medical school, and I became a pediatric neurosurgeon, and I saved the lives of thousands of little kids. Good use of your gifts. Come on in. He said, the second one, he said, what's your IQ? The guy says, 171. And what did you do with it? And he said, I became a research chemist, and I developed cures for 5 major diseases that killed hundreds of thousands of people a year. St. Peter says, great, come on in. There's a third guy, and he says, what was your IQ? And the guy says, 64. Did you get your help? John Wesley talks about money. He had a whole sermon on the use of money. And in it, one of the things he says is, gain all you can when it comes to money. Gain all you can by using in your business all the understanding which God has given you. And then he goes on to say, the second rule of Christian prudence is save all that you can. Don't throw the precious talent into the sea. Leave that falling to the heathen philosophers. Don't throw it away in idle expenses, which is just the same as throwing it into the sea. Expend no part of it merely to gratify the desires of the flesh, the desires of the eye, or the pride of life. Just save it. But let not any man imagine that he's done anything barely by going this far, by simply gaining and saving all he can. If he were to stop here, all this is nothing. The man cannot go forward if it does not point to all this at the further end. Nor indeed can he properly be said to have saved anything if he only lays it up. You might as well just throw it into the sea or bury it in the earth. You may as well bury it in the earth as throw it in your chest or in the Bank of England. Not to use not to use as effectively to throw it away. Therefore, if you would indeed make yourselves friends of the mammon of righteousness, add the third rule to the two preceding: give all you can. He goes on, in order to see the ground reason of this, consider whether the possessor of heaven and earth, God, who brought you into being and placed you in this world, He placed you here not as a proprietor, but a steward. And as such, He entrusted you for a season with goods of various kinds. But the sole property of these still rests in Him, nor can be alienated from Him, as you yourself are not your own, but His. Such is likewise all that you enjoy, such as your soul and your body, not your own, but God's. So is your substance in particular. And He has told you in the most clear and express terms how you are to employ it for Him, in such a manner that it may be all in holy sacrifice acceptable to Christ Jesus. And this light, easy service, He has promised to reward with an eternal weight of glory. The directions which God has given us touching the use of our worldly substance may be comprised in the following particulars. If you desire to be a faithful and wise steward, out of that portion of your Lord's goods which He has for the present lodged in your hands, first, provide the things needful for yourself, food to eat, raiment to put on, whatever nature moderately requires for preserving the body in health and strength. Secondly, provide these for your wife, your children, your servants, or any others who pertain in your household. If when this is done there be an overplus, then do good to them who are of the household of faith. If there be an overplus still, as you have the opportunity, do good to all humans. In so doing, you give all that you can. In a sound sense, all that you have. For all that is laid out in this manner is really given to God. You render unto God the things that are God's, not only by what you give to the poor, but also by what you expend in providing the things needful for yourself and your household. Each one of us will be called to give an account of our stewardship. We don't know when that day is going to come, but we know it will come. What will you say on that day? How did you manage God's goods?